I want to start this video with a question. When you found yourself at the gates of divinity, ready to stop Miquella's ascension to godhood, were you sure that was the right thing to do? Especially after beating promised consort Radon and watching the final cutscene. The game up until this point somewhat tries to make the case that Miquella should be stopped, and we also don't really have a choice on the matter. But is wishing for a gentler world really such a bad thing? For a while, I found myself in that exact situation. Not sure if I should have really killed Miquella, even after hearing Saint Trina's plea and listening to Sir Ansbach's warnings. Even after learning about his manipulative nature, I didn't really think his goal was an evil one. But as I thought more and more about it, my opinions started to shift. Today, I can say with total conviction that not only Miquella's actions were foul, but the age he would bring is also objectively evil, and he is a monster that has to be stopped at any cost. In this video, I want to share my thoughts with an analysis of Miquella, so you may understand how my views changed so drastically. This video requires some prior knowledge of Elden Ring's lore, but before analyzing something, I like to contextualize it so we are all on the same page, and you can see where my conclusions are coming from. So even if you're not 100% caught up with the lore of Elden Ring, explanations will be provided here and there, so you won't get completely lost. Very well, let's begin then. Miquella was born alongside his twin, Malenia. He is an Empyrean, someone capable of becoming a god of a new age and forging a new order. He is the child of Marika and Radagon, who, as we already know, are the same person. The twins were born cursed. Malenia was afflicted by scarlet rot, and Miquella suffered from eternal youth. Here we can already break down and analyze a few things. Fat Brett, on his own video analysis of Miquella, said one interesting thing I want to reiterate and expand upon. In fiction, cursed children are often a reflection of the sins of their parents. And I think that Miquella specifically inherited the sins of Marika, while Malenia inherited the ones of Radagon. This comparison between the character of Miquella and Marika is a central part of the analysis, so for the whole thing to make sense, I need to convince you that to be the case. When Queen Marika shattered the Elden Ring and betrayed the Golden Order, Radagon remained loyal to it and tried to repair the Elden Ring with the same tool Marika used to shatter it. This is important because it tells us that despite sharing the same body, Marika and Radagon are two opposite forces, two sides of the same coin, that is the Golden Order. The minor Erdtree incantation reads, "Secret incantation of Queen Marika. Only the kindness of gold, without order." This helps us understand what Marika and Radagon are supposed to represent. Radagon is a fundamentalist, the law of regression, the order aspect of the Golden Order. And we know how this order leads to stagnation. It creates a world which despises and destroys anything that refuses to become part of it. This stale world that the Golden Order created resulted in the rotting sickness that Malenia inherited. The sins of her father, so to speak. The word Aeonia itself means for everlasting, and the red hair is a visual hint of the connection between Malenia and Radagon. I could go on with the comparisons between the two, but since the focus of this video is Miquella, let's turn to him again. The kindness of gold part is too on the nose, and thanks to Leda, I guess, we can safely conclude that Miquella took after his mother, including her golden hair and her sins. But then the question becomes, what are the sins of Marika, and how are they linked to Miquella's curse of eternal youth? Marika is a character that deserves a whole nother video to herself, so subscribe if you don't want to miss that. But to proper analyze Miquella, I do need to dive into her character a little bit. From the story trailer of the Shadow of the Erdtree, we learn about the beginnings, the seduction and the betrayal. Seduction being how the Two Fingers lured Marika into becoming an avatar for the greater will, and the betrayal was the onslaught she brought against the Hornsent. These, I think, are the sins of Marika that Miquella inherited. His youthful form is a recall to America's own youth, when she was naive enough to be deceived and tricked into godhood, as well as her revenge upon the Horn Scent, a result of her childhood trauma. Miquella's youth is not only a physical thing. I believe his childish nature is also reflected in his character and his ideals. The ideal to create an age of compassion is a pure-hearted one. It comes from someone who is averse to conflict. Why is the world full of suffering? Why we must fight? Why we must hurt each other? It is natural to questions like these arise, as one learns about the reality of the world. Miquella, like his father, was a fundamentalist. But when the Golden Order was unable to treat Malenia's scarlet rot, he abandoned it. Interestingly enough, Miquella is said to be a genius, creating many spells for his father, and peculiarities such as the pulley bow and the unalloyed gold needle. This advanced intellect adds to an interesting contradiction to Miquella's character. He is clever, but fails to consider the morality of his actions nonetheless. After leaving the Golden Order, Miquella watered a sapling with his own blood until it eventually grew into the Erdtree. This tree would become a place for the forlorn to call a home. Something strangely motherly. But let's save this line of thought for America's video. Miquella entombed himself inside the tree. His initial plan was to grow with it, so he no longer would be a child. And after reaching his full potential, he would oppose the Golden Order and establish his own age. The beginnings of Miquella paint him as truly kind and compassionate. He suffered that his sister could not be cured from the scarlet rot. He mourned that his brother Godwyn could not die a true death. He felt sorrow for the beings persecuted by the Golden Order and sought to create a safe haven for them. But eventually, these things suddenly get twisted. After the Shattering, Malenia was ordered by Miquella to slay Radon. The reason for that you might already know if you beat the DLC, but they shall be addressed in depth later on in this video, as they are the key for understanding Miquella. Anyway, while Miquella was away, he was kidnapped by Mohg, who cut him out of the Erdtree and brought him to Mohgwyn Palace. Mohg's goal was to elevate Miquella to godhood status and become his consort through communion with the Formless Mother. Just like Marika most certainly used seduction as one of her tools to establish her age, Miquella did the same with Mohg. Though Marika doesn't seem to be able to magically charm others like Miquella. She possibly pulled it off by being really good at using her sensuality. Something Miquella can't do, as his charm is more like childlike in nature. It compels others to care and defend him at any cost.
Yes, I should have known. Even the truth was itself mere folly. As if using Lord Mohg to gain entrance to the land of Shadow were not enough, he plans to use his corpse as the vessel of his king consort. He has forsaken Lord Mohg's soul. He desires only his empty shell. It beggars belief, but I'm afraid tender Miquella fails to grasp the humiliation implied by this act. One thing is certain. My dear lord deserved better.
The Shadow of the Erdtree DLC reveals to us that Mohg was put into enchantment by Miquella, and he planned to be captured all along. Miquella used Mohg to reach the land of Shadow, where lies the gates of divinity, the same artifact Marika used to reach godhood herself. To prepare for his ascension, Miquella disposes parts of himself, including his flesh, his eye, his fears, and most importantly, something you should not have. Probably one of my favorite moments of the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC is right here, in Miquella's cross, inside the stone coffin fissure. A spirit near the cross tells us, "Kindly Miquella, I see you've thrown away something you should not have under any circumstances. How will you salvation offer to those who cannot be saved, when you cannot even save your other self? And the prompt from Miquella's cross reads, I abandon here my love.
Miquella, stop. Don't turn the poor thing into a god. Godhood would be Miquella's prison. A caged divinity is beyond saving. You must kill Miquella. Grant him forgiveness.
In the deepest part of the stone coffin fissure lies Saint Trina, Miquella's other half, the love he discarded. The first thing we know about Trina is that she is associated with sleep. Her gift is a purple nectar that lulls those who imbibe it into slumber. Her sleep is also a form of kindness, as she granted eternal rest to the putrescent knight who could not die. I believe Saint Trina represents comfort. Her nectar grants rest for those weary in body and soul. Her gentleness also captured the heart of Thiolier, who became obsessed with Saint Trina. Thiolier describes himself as,
I'm as weak as a kitten and thick as two planks.
and the all-embracing gentleness of Trina must have felt like heaven to someone with such low sense of worth. His infatuation with Trina, in turn, took the shape of romantic feelings. The Saint Trina Smile talisman reads, Only I am allowed to know of your velvety sleep, its sweetly gentle embrace. So please, smile for me.
It must be me, and only me.
But of course, this devotion is one-sided, as Trina does not share her parting wish with Thiolier, no matter how much he imbibes of her nectar.
I am gone, adrift in sleep, so that I may hear St. Trina's lost voice. Let me be. I won't be long. I'll thank you not to lie to me. I am the chosen, not you. Only I can doze off in the sea of St. Trina. Why would you hear her voice when I cannot? If you should utter these cruel untruths to me again, I won't be held responsible for my actions. Please, enough. I cannot believe your cheek, and I will stand for it no longer. I will never forgive you. I will never forgive you. For your trespass, you will know my poison.
Perhaps it's because what Thiolier desired was not comfort or love, but instead he harbored a death wish, the desire to escape from all that is painful. Keep that desire to avoid suffering and conflict in mind. It will come back later on. One thing we know about Saint Trina is that her love for Miquella is unwavering. She pleaded us to put him out of his misery before he became a god. If her feelings are exclusively fraternal, or if they are also romantic, is unclear. But it seems that she was supposed to represent the love of Miquella, and Miquella did love her as well. But for his age of compassion, Miquella could not discriminate the recipient of his affection. His love must be boundless and equal to all. As such, he had to throw away Trina, whom he loved the most. He would discard that love and bury it in the farthest part of the land of Shadow, probably because it was a sacrifice he least wanted to be reminded of, the one that would become the undoing of his age. I wonder, though, why did Saint Trina needed any saving? I wonder if the original Japanese text has any clarification on that. But in any case, Perhaps the main thing we have to take from it is that Miquella had to sacrifice his other half for his age of compassion, and in that process, his own humanity, all in his pursuit of godhood. Then, how could such a being be able to understand the hearts of men? What certainty we have that his compassion would not be misguided?
Once, in an attempt to free Lord Moog from his enchantment, I challenged tender Miquella, only to have my own heart rather artfully stolen. I knew not how weak I was. I believed that with sufficient mastery, even an Empyrean would be within reach of my blade. I could not have been more mistaken. Miquella the Kind is a monster, pure and radiant. He wields love to shrive clean the hearts of men. There is nothing more terrifying.
Miquella put under the influence of his charm a group of adventurers with seemingly nothing in common. A group of people that would be going after each other's throats, lest for his power. They were the followers of Miquella, our tarnished included, it seems. To escape his curse of eternal youth and the grasp of the greater will, Miquella had to divest himself of all things, including his great rune, which is the thing that allowed him to put others under his charm. Throughout the story, the adventurers will either try to stop us from reaching Miquella or help us slay him. It's interesting to point out how each follower of Miquella represents a facet of who he is. Let's break down each one of them and see how that is the case here. Let's start with Moore.
I don't know what to do. Our mother abandoned her brood. She did not love us. We are her children. What should we do? Must we be sad forever?
Moore, I believe, represents the motherly aspect of Miquella's blessing. He is a scarlet rot pest, who, after being abandoned by the goddess of rot, was struck by the pain of being unwanted and the craving for love. This craving compelled Moore into seeking Miquella's compassion. He is similar to Thiolier, who we have already addressed, but Moore craves a motherly affection instead of comfort and a romantic experience.
Maybe that's kindly Miquella's love. Love for all the unloved. Love to banish the pain.
Speaking of Thiolier, if we tell him about Saint Trina's wish, he bounces back from his depression and fights against Miquella to fulfill her wish.
You are a wretched, wretched soul. A nightmare come to plague me. Such a thing couldn't possibly be. Could it? Trina, please let me hear your voice in my everlasting slumber.
But Moore still follows Miquella, even after the enchantment's broken.
You and I, fighting. Tragedy this is.
I am deeply sorry for doubting you. I am here only to grant St. Trina's singular wish. I will stop Miquella the Kind. He will never become a god.
Redmane Freya was a knight of Radahn, before becoming a follower of Miquella. During the Battle of Caelid, Malenia released her Scarlet Rot to match Radahn's measure. This resulted in the whole land becoming afflicted by the disease, and Freya was infected. Miquella reached out for Freya and drank the poison, curing her as the result. But let's remind ourselves for a second that the Battle of Caelid only happened because of Miquella. So, did he save Freya with the intention of recruiting her? Was he even close to Caelid when that happened? All these questions don't have clear answers. But in the end, the short-sighted Freya decided to pledge loyalty to Miquella regardless, which is curious considering we tell her that Miquella plans on reviving Radahn. Freya thinks the battlefield suits Radahn better than an honorable death. But in Miquella's age of compassion, there would be neither honor or battle. Perhaps Freya is a caution sign to not accept so blindly Miquella's age, without questioning its implications. She follows Miquella even after the enchantment is broken.
I am the Redmane Freya, the time has come. I could not hope for a worthier foe. This is our moment. Let's make it something to remember.
Dryleaf Dane is a character that seems to contradict what Miquella stands for. He is a dedicated monk who seeks spiritual enlightenment and mastery of the martial arts. He embraces self-resilience as a virtue and sees sparring as a path to mastery. Despite all of that, he remains steadfast in his loyalty to Miquella and has been his follower longer than anyone else. If anything, I think Dane represents the conviction of Miquella. Dane respects strength of will, suggesting that Miquella's determination is as compelling as his kindness. He follows Miquella even after the enchantment is broken. Hornsent is from the same kind that faced Marika's revenge once she reached godhood. For that reason, he hates the Tarnished, the Golden Order, and the Erdtree. But thanks to Miquella's charm, he's peaceful to the rest of the crew. Through Hornsent, we learn the allure of the Age of Compassion. Even those filled with hatred and thirst for vengeance can coexist under Miquella's influence. He follows Miquella even after the enchantment is broken, unless you let him get his revenge on Mesmer, which drive his bloodlust even further, making him antagonize Miquella, the offspring of Marika, and the Tarnished, her champion.
Miquella, please. Redeem.
The GOAT! Sir Unsbach was once a follower of Mohg and tried to strike down Miquella in an attempt to free Mohg of his enchantment, only to fail and be put under a mind control charm as well. He is a victim of the tyranny of Miquella's age. Those under Miquella's charm are stripped out of their free will and the painful memories of their past, even if they desire to retain them. Without the ability to recall our mistakes, we cannot learn from them, and that leads to a perpetual stage of immaturity, a callback to Miquella's curse. Sir Unsbach's character puts into question not only the morality of the Age of Compassion, but the practicality of it. He does not follow Miquella after the enchantment is broken.
I am Erdtree of the Pure Blood Knights. I stand with blade aloft, blood of fire, for the dignity of my lord and master Mohg. Righteous Tarnished, it appears that our interests have aligned. A balm upon my soul it is that we do not meet today as enemies. Now, my blade. Watch closely.
And finally, we have Needle Knight Leda.
I thought I'd see you here. It'd been quite some time. It was never kindly Miquella, was it? The Erdtree was leading you all along, so that you might ascend to lordship, might come to these lands to begin with. I suppose it must be what His Eminence, or perhaps the Erdtree desired all along. The clashing of the favored lords, such that one would prevail. So be it. If you insist upon facing Miquella the Kind, then I will run you through whoever you might be. Don't tarry now.
She is Miquella's most loyal follower, and goes as far as culling out all allies that display a hint of distrust in Miquella. As a result, she and Dryleaf Dane are the only ones left of the Needle Knights. In her own words,
I've come to a realization. There's ample evidence. Without kindly Miquella's influence, I'm quite mistrustful of others.
since we should take her as a reflection of Miquella, this is also a tragic aspect of his character. He too is distrustful of others. He believes that without his powers to force others into loving him, he would not be loved at all, that no one would stood by his side until the end, not even Malenia. As such, each and every being would be put under Miquella's charm in the Age of Compassion, forever, and no act of true trust would take place. She follows Miquella even after the enchantment is broken, obviously.
By way of apology, I will reveal the marrow of my sword. Its needles that will stitch you into death, not the fire
blade or the mightiest armor. Spare your life. Poison to your ear.
I can't fathom your convictions. After knowing kindly Miquella, what remains that led to your life?
Miquella the Kind, we have forget.
Miquella's followers will be doing the dirty work for him in the DLC, killing Mesmer and burning the Sealing Tree in order to open the path to Enir Ilim, where lies the Gate of Divinity. Though, let's be honest, most likely we end up doing all of that ourselves, such is the nature of these games.
We are the I seem to have made a poor judgment about you, or perhaps Centrina. Make the world a gentler place.
At the very end of the DLC, it comes the moment the Tarnish has to face Miquella and stop his ascension. Be it to fulfill Saint Trina's request, be it because they disagree with the Age of Compassion, be it because they want to become Elden Lord and will put to the sword any challenge in his path for the crown. The Tarnish climbs the spiraling staircase of Enir Ilim and finds themselves in front of the Gate of Divinity. And obviously, as our last challenge,
My loyal
we face
blade and champion of the festival. Both your deeds will ever be praised in song. Now, the vow will be honored, and my lord brother's soul will return, so that he may be my consort.
Yeah, unless you did Sir Ansbach and Freya's questlines, you won't see that coming. But turns out Miquella kidnapped Moog's body and used it in a ritual to bring back the soul of Radahn. The reason for why he brought back Radahn in specific is the final point of discussion of this video. So let's take one step back and let's bring up Malenia again. Sorry. In Millicent's questline, she tells us she was born when Malenia released her powers during the Battle of Caelid.
Again we meet. I can only surmise our purposes are aligned. In which case, allow me to explain myself. I am of Malenia's blood, but in what capacity I know not. I could be sister, daughter, or an offshoot. Whatever the case though, I am certain of a kinship between us.
Millicent's purpose is to return to Malenia something she had lost at that moment.
There is something I must return to Malenia. The will that was once her own. The dignity. The sense of self. That allowed her to resist the call of the Scarlet Rot. The pride she abandoned. To meet Radahn's measure.
And by the end of her questline, Millicent fulfills her purpose. By refusing the call of the Scarlet Rot, something Malenia couldn't do, Millicent is able to die as her own person.
Oh. Hello. Thank you for lending your hand. Without your help, I could not have defeated that quartet. I feel as if I've been in your debt from beginning to end. Thank you. With your help, I was able to live as my own person. If only in passing. But this is where things end. I paused to even tell you, but I took out the needle myself. Tell whoever put you up to this that if I am to flower into something other than myself, I would rather rot into nothingness as I am. Please, let me pass alone. The scarlet rot writhes now, worse than ever. Soon, I won't be more than a mound of flesh, curse-laden. Untouchable. I wouldn't want such a thing to bring you harm.
I think it's important to further drive the case of how much the pride of Malenia mattered to her. She spent her whole life fighting the curse, and became a respected warrior without the need to rely on its power. We know how deeply she was admired by her subjects because of Finlay, who carried Malenia back to the Erdtree all the way from Caelid after the Battle of Ionia. Millicent has an entire questline dedicated to make sure we know that fact. And despite that, Malenia still released the Scarlet Ionia against Radahn for the sake of Miquella's wish. I have no reason to believe that Malenia did it out of her own volition, and we even have texts supporting that. From Young Lion's set, we know what she said in the trailer. When Malenia, blade of Miquella, let the rot flower blossom in Ionia, Radahn heard a murmur in his ear. Miquella waits thee, O promised consort. Miquella was the one who ordered Malenia to unleash her true power. He sacrificed not only all of Caelid, but his dear sister and her pride. But why? We know that Miquella cared about Malenia. He abandoned the Golden Order precisely because it could not help her curse, and created unalloyed gold to help her. So, if he cared so much about his sister, why did he let her ruin herself like this? Did he just love Radahn much more? I don't think that's the case here. After all, Miquella is still bent on making Radahn his consort, even after abandoning his love. So the reason why he made the promise is not out of affection. When I finally understood the true reason, it was when my opinion of Miquella changed, and I no longer bear a speck of sympathy for him. Miquella loves everyone equally, and as a result, he does not discriminate his love. He cares about his sister as much as everyone else, including the people of Caelid he sacrificed it for his wish. That's why he wants to make the world a gentler place to everyone, even those who don't deserve it. And that is why he is okay with sacrificing those who are loyal to him. When he still had Saint Trina, he was still human enough to discriminate who he loves. But by throwing it away, he has become, in the truest sense of the word, a monster. I don't doubt his age would be one where despicable acts would still take place. Just like how his enchantment never stopped Mohg from making blood sacrifices to him while he was still inside his cocoon. It would most likely just change the way we perceive such atrocities. This would result in a world still full of misery, but where no one sheds a tear. There is still one character missing that we need to analyze in order to understand Miquella. And of course, I'm talking about Radahn. I don't think that many people will argue against that Radahn didn't want to become Miquella's consort. But let's discuss his character to understand exactly why and the reason why Miquella chose him. Radahn is said to be the mightiest demigod and fought in the War of the Shadowing. Like other demigods, he had the ambition to become Elden Lord, and I'd say that's the main reason why he would be against becoming Miquella's consort. We also never hear him answering Miquella's plea at the final cutscene. Even though it's supposed to be a promise between the two, it was made only by one person, but Miquella gets what he wants, no matter the cost. Radahn in many ways can be described as being a warmonger, but he's also not exactly a savage. He sure loved a big fight, so much so there's a whole spectacle dedicated to his death, set up by one of his own men. But he does not kill only for the sake of killing. He's also very interested in making connections with others, and building a sense of camaraderie with his soldiers. He is a brute, but a companion. He is strong, but kind. Like the remembrance of a god and the Lord says, Radahn stood in stark contrast with Miquella, whose kindness was a result of his weakness, his fragile body, and his childish psyche. Miquella desires to escape from all that is painful, to escape from a world full of drudgery and conflict. His obsession with Radahn stems not out of love, but from a psychological need to feel complete, to fill the parts that he lacked. When the Tarnished meet Radahn for the first time, he's a zombie, consumed by the Scarlet Rot. He scavenges the battlefield. eating corpses of the fallen warriors and attacking anyone who approaches. But when the Tarnished faces Radahn again, he is but an enslaved husk, incapable of doing anything except what Miquella commands him to, and that's what makes our second fight against him truly tragic. Even after being afflicted by the Scarlet Rot, he still had more freedom than he did after Miquella revived him. We are forced to put Radahn out of his misery not only once, but twice.
To I, Miquella, and my promised consort, Radahn.
Miquella is a monster that munches through. He believes that his vision is so righteous that it justifies any means. But there's something about him I left out for the very end. Considering the way he's portrayed in the last cutscene, I think that in truth, Miquella was very afraid. He knew what was the price of true godhood. He saw in his mother what is the fate of a caged divinity. But he still chose to embrace it. Not for his sake, but for the sake of such a cruel world he lived in. Radahn being with him at the very end gave him the courage he needed to take the plunge, no matter the sacrifice. Even after everything I said here, I think it's wrong to call Miquella evil, despite everything he did, and despite I still thinking he's a monster, because he acted out of his sense of goodness, even if this goodness was twisted as a result of his weak self. His curse of immaturity never allowed him to grow up to understand what makes things like dignity, bonds, and facing struggles of life head-on meaningful. So with everything that has been said, let's get our thoughts about Miquella the Kind in one final conclusion. Miquella is, without doubt, one of the most complex and well-written characters of Elden Ring, and I'd even say in modern media in general. He represents a duality of two contrasting characteristics: his immense compassion and his willingness to make the world a gentler place at any cost. His dream of bringing the Age of Compassion reflects his desire to escape a world full of pain, suffering, and conflict. But his curse of eternal youth not only hinders his body, but is also reflected in his mentality. Due to his immaturity, Miquella fails to perceive the importance of autonomy, struggle, and pride. He is someone that does not distinguish between love freely given and love enforced, as he is someone that is so compassionate that his love is given to all equally. This boundless love, coupled with his willingness to sacrifice anyone and anything, his sister's pride, the lives of many, and even his own humanity, all to achieve his goal, is what makes him a terrifying monster. Miquella is not just an evil villain, nor a tragic victim. He was afraid of the cost of becoming a true god, and his only solace was the promise of having the company of Radahn at his side. In the end, he only wanted to make the world a gentler place, but his own powers isolated him. He feared being alone, so much so he would never stop using his charm on others, and never had the chance to truly be loved for who he is. And the end result is a monster full of love that doesn't fully understand what that means. Ultimately, he stopped before achieving his goal, before his dream could be fulfilled, and before he could learn from his mistakes. Like everything in his life, from his tree to unalloyed gold, to his own age of compassion, Miquella died before reaching his full potential. I want to use the remaining of this video to open up a discussion about the ending of the DLC. But first, hey, I'm kinda late to make introductions, but I'm Shadow. I have another channel where I make video essays and theories about indie games, but I'm also a big FromSoftware fan, so I wanted to create another channel where I could talk about their stuff. If you want more analysis like this, please consider subscribing to this channel, but also feel free to check the other one. I'm not Vadi or anything, but while I think the lore is cool and I love it, the story of these games are still a little underappreciated, in my opinion. I will do my part to make a change on that. Now moving on. I think when it comes to the ending of the DLC, we all kinda had the same reaction. Instead of saying what it was, I think Ludwig perfectly captures it.
I'm going to be a god. Promise me you'll be my consort. I'll make the world a gentler place.
So are we just fucking assholes? Like, what am I supposed to do with that? I killed the guy who wanted to make the world a gentler place. I mean, yeah, he is a, like, incestual, certified, you know what I mean? But
Yeah, it feels weird, doesn't it? I also recognize that a lot of people feel it to be a little underwhelming. Like, we just killed the strongest guy in the lore with a super buff. We stopped a demigod from reaching true godhood. And all we get is a simple cutscene that makes us feel bad? At least when we have no context of it. I think everyone has the right to have their own opinion on this ending. So I want to share my thoughts so we can have a discussion about it. I think the ending is good. I do like it. But at the same time, I do think it's not a fitting ending if Shadow of the Erdtree is the only DLC we ever get. I know. At least to some articles I read, Miyazaki said there won't be a second DLC. But you know how money has its way of convincing people. You'll never know. Copium or not, the reason I feel the ending is unsatisfying is because how grandiose all of the DLC was. Just how much new lore it had, how it revealed a bunch of stuff about the old lore, how epic was climbing Aenir Ilum and fighting Prime Radon. But there's not much consequence to all of it. We don't even get a new ending or anything. And I also personally feel that all of Elden Ring's endings are unsatisfying. But that's a topic for another video. Basically, what I'm trying to say is, the ending just reveals to us about Miquella's need for assurance, and that having Radon at his side, consensually or not, was the last piece he needed to make his mind and be able to offer everything for the Age of Compassion. But for our Tarnished, and the lands between, it doesn't really mean much. I think the DLC did some things right. I know Elden Ring is supposed to be an RPG, and you were to make your own story, but some character dialogues implied that our Tarnished is someone very obsessed with becoming Elden Lord, and will strike down anyone in their path.
Tis just as the woman said it would be. Lord of the Erdtree, Lord of Marika, you two deserve to face the reckoning. Your lord is slain, and you are next, Marika.
I never could have imagined it. That you might be the Erdtree's rightful lord. Such as it is, this battle could not be more fitting.
With this battle I send you on. It was an honor to face a worthy lord. Now go.
I think that's cool. I think that it justifies many of the protagonist's actions, even if we are to choose another ending along the way. The main problem of the ending of the DLC, for me at least, is not that it is bad, or even that the idea is bad. It's just that it lacks the impact we're hoping for. But it has its own merits. It does make us question our actions, and even adds this interesting complexity of our Tarnished being this creature of sheer will that just wants to become Elden Lord at any cost. And at the same time, we have Miquella, who is just trying his best to make the world a gentler place. You know, it's not a simple story of good versus evil, but more akin to a clash of ambitions, which is something that fits with Elden Ring overall, I think. Maybe if it ended with something like us destroying the gates of divinity, or even the entirety of Aenir Ilum, it would make up for the lack of impact. But then again, the ending itself is fine. Elden Ring just needs an ending that will make us feel a sense of agency, that our actions have an impact in this world, and an ending that is not the ending of the Frenzied Flame. But these are my thoughts. If you agree, disagree, or have anything to add, feel free to leave a comment down below. That's it for now. Thank you for watching the video. Please consider liking if you enjoyed it, and I see you next time.